Hey everyone, it's me, Dr. Aaron Smith with the Stone Canyon Eye Show, and this is part 3 in our mini-series called Eye Doctor Secrets, where I'm talking with Dr. Neal Guymon, also known as Dr. Eye Guy. He has his own YouTube channel. Make sure and check it out if you haven't already. He's awesome and has a lot of videos on this specific topic that we're going to be talking about today, which is VR devices, virtual reality, gaming. We'll touch on gaming a little bit, but the main question that we're going to touch on and answer, specifically Dr. Guymon is more the expert on this, is it going to ruin your eyes? Does it damage your eyes playing on VR devices? Does it cause eye strain, and are there ways to save your eyes while you're using these devices? Because you're not necessarily playing on these game consoles for 5 minutes at a time. It's usually 15 minutes at a time, could be a couple hours at a time. For some people, it could be the majority of the day. Dr. Guymon, we're going to go right over to you on this one and just kick it off with a question of what game console do you use, and what are some ways that you are able to reduce eye strain or prevent eye strain, and then we'll go into can it damage your eyes.
So, yeah. So I mean, I guess you could label me as kind of like a gamer doctor, but I feel like I haven't had really that much time lately to play a lot of games, mainly because I've shifted my focus into doing YouTube videos. And so I spent a lot of time like doing these videos and editing and, researching and everything like that. But definitely I grew up playing video games, as a lot of people have. I even have played good old days of Xbox, Call of Duty days with Dr. Smith here, Aaron, actually. So it's been a while, though.
It's been a little bit.
Yeah, a long time.
6 months.
Yeah, so I myself have experienced definitely the struggles or the experience of staring at an intense screen while you're playing a video game and you just stare like crazy, your eyes dry out. In fact, I remember specifically, I think playing Call of Duty or something where I didn't want to blink because I didn't want to miss anything on the screen. And so I remember actually purposely blinking one eye at a time so I could leave one eye open, but my eyes would get so dry because I would just kind of stare at the screen. But I was just, I don't know why. I was just nervous to like blink and like, oh, then I'm dead. But I'd actually like blink one eye at a time because my eyes started to hurt and strain and get dry. And so I was blinking one eye at a time. Is that weird? Am I weird? Have you ever done that?
No, in fact, I remember, and I don't know, let me know if you remember some of these conversations that we actually had some of the times when we would play late at night. Somebody ought to invent some eye drops that are called gamer eye drops or something that you would use before to prevent the dry eye symptoms, because literally, like you're saying, some of these games are so fast paced that if you blink, you die. Yeah. And it's all about that KD ratio, right? That the death ratio that you're trying to constantly improve. And that's how your team wins. And I know that sounds kind of, terrible to say, but if you blink, you die on these games. And so definitely that's a whole separate topic of conversation, but dry eye, right? How can you prevent dry eye? And definitely eye drops help out too, but.
Well, so when we're talking about eye strain, like when people talk about, oh my eyes, are straining, I'm playing games, or parents see their kids playing games, 8 hours at a time, staring at their Switch or something, so they're like, okay, is this, making their eyes worse? Is it damaging there's a lot of questions to answer here. And, really it really does come down to the same type of thing happens with adults too. And we're working on the computers all day long, staring at our phones, tablets. It's the same type of eye strain that we're talking about. So the eye strain that we're talking about is your focusing muscles staring at a screen. So if you're playing the Switch or tablet or iPhone or something that's close to you, you have to focus a long time, and that can lead to headaches and eye strain. Also, when you're staring at a screen, your blink rate goes down, it shrinks down by 60%. That means you're going to blink 60% less than you would normally blink if you're just kind of walking around. That's because you're staring at the screen. You don't want to miss something. We tend to be focused on something. So the surface of the eye really dries out, can cause redness, irritation, pain sometimes, depending on how bad it is. And so when we're talking about eye strain, we're talking about that. Focusing, headaches, and then dryness is kind of like the big ones there. And so, yeah, those are the things that we kind of focus on as eye doctors to try and help with eye strain, are those kind of two big areas.
So what are some quick tips that you have off the top of your head that first come to mind on how to reduce eye strain, reduce some of these symptoms that can go along with having fun playing video games?
So a lot of the same tips I actually give people, and I have this in a bunch of my other videos as far as computer vision syndrome, digital eye strain. A lot of the same tips apply. And so usually the first one, as eye doctors, we usually talk about is definitely taking breaks. There's this classic 20-20-20 rule. If you haven't heard of it, it's every 20 minutes, you take a 20-second break looking 20 feet away. So pretty much the idea there is you are going to look away from the screen, relax your focusing muscles, focus on blinking, recoating the surface of the eyes with tears. And so if your kids are gaming a lot, I mean, you could even set a timer, hey, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, tell your kids to take a little bit of a break, to look away, blink. If you notice their eyes are getting red, then yeah, their eyes are getting dry. They're staring at the screen, way too long, and they're blinking a whole lot less. And so that's tip number one. And that actually comes from research. Like, research went into this to try and figure out what would be the best for digital eye strain. And they came out with, hey, you need to take a break. 20-20-20 rule. So that's usually a big one that a lot of doctors talk about. Tip number 2 would be teardrops, artificial tears, like Dr. Smith was talking about. You can get some gamer eye drops. They're pretty much just some preservative-free artificial tears, keeping those eyes moist with fresh tears. That'll keep them from drying out. Tip number 3, you can, and this will actually be aggressive about fighting digital eye strain. You can get specific glasses that are specifically meant for either the computer or your tablet that has a built-in near power to help with those focusing muscles. And that actually can be a big deal because your eyes won't get tired. It can lessen the chance of headaches. You get this prescription from your eye doctor. There's even something that they can put in the glasses called Prism that can lessen the demand of your converging eye muscles, your eye muscles having to point in at that screen. And so there are certain glasses that you can get that can help with this eye strain that you can get from your doctor.
Yeah, there are a couple lenses that come to mind that we recommend for our patients. Oakley, for one, makes a specific lens. They have their own gamer lens. And the lens that you referred to earlier, NeuroLens, is that what you referred to earlier a little bit?
Yep.
NeuroLens has that contoured prism power in it that literally makes it to where your eyes don't have to over-converge. It actually lines your eyes up as it focuses the vision, which is different than standard pair of glasses. And we oftentimes treat headaches for that. But if somebody had their eyes constantly converged at television, or let's say they're gaming on a computer or something like that, they could definitely greatly benefit from glasses that make it to where they don't have to converge their eyes as far, like NeuroLens. Maybe there's a blue light blocker in there, right?
Mm-hmm. You can get those on the glasses. Yep.
Yeah, computer glasses. Really quick, do you have a favorite preservative-free dry eye drop that we could leave a little link in the description below for the viewers that you would recommend?
Yeah, so I actually have a few. So I actually did a video about some of my favorite ones that you can get over the counter. There's different ones kind of designed for different parts of the tears, the oil, water part of the tears. But sometimes just the eye drops that kind of cover both the water and the oil, protecting that oil layer to kind of keep your tears from evaporating, are really good. Sustain Complete kind of covers both those grounds. It can be a little bit of a milkier eye drop, so you kind of put it in there, might have to wait a little bit to kind of get back to gaming a little bit. But the ones that I've actually liked that not necessarily have the oil component in there, but would be Refresh Relieva. I like the BioTrue Hydration Plus. Or Hydration Boost. That's actually a really good one that I like a lot. But yeah, we can put links in the comments, or you can check out my video as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely leave a link to that specific video, Dr. Guymon's video, in the description below, as well as some of his favorite products for taking care of dry eyes. So, Dr. Guymon, we've talked about a few tips to reduce eye strain, but more specifically, there's different type of gaming. There's VR gaming, and then there's just gaming in general. But it's a little bit different when you play both of those, because with VR, you're wearing a device. You are inside the game. You have something that's right close to your eyes that you have to use in order to properly play that game. So does that pose any greater risk for eye strain? How is that different than just standard gaming? And do you have any specific tips for VR gamers out there to help them?
Yeah, so this is where I've done actually quite a bit of videos on this, because this is really, people are really curious about this topic, because VR is fun. Virtual reality is fun. A lot of kids want to play virtual reality. Parents are concerned if their kids' eyes are going to get worse from playing virtual reality. And so it's kind of a different concept. Now, when the device is on there, there's a few other things that can cause eye strain. So you have lenses that are, an inch away from your eyes. And so a lot of people experience either, hey, the VR is blurry, I get headaches, my eyes are straining out. What are the tips that I can do to help you out, or help out? So the big ones with VR is there is an alignment issue. So there's a lot of talk about getting your pupil distance right. So the pupil distance is the measurement between your pupils of your eyes, the distance between your eyes. And that has to match up with the lenses in the VR exactly, or as close as you can. If it's off, then you'll be looking through a different portion of the lens, which can cause blur, but also can cause strain, and your eye muscles can get fatigued. So you want to try and measure that as close as possible. I have videos showing exactly how to do that. But the one thing that I kind of want to talk about in VR, and this is where it gets interesting, is sometimes I actually think that the strain from VR can sometimes be less than the strain that you can get from using the computer, or less than you can get using a Switch or a tablet or an iPad. And the reason why I say that is because in VR is able to set the focal point of the vision farther in the distance. So for example, in the Meta Quest 2, they actually set the focal point 4 feet out. So pretty much your eyes only need to work to see 4 feet out. Whereas instead of maybe 14 inches on a Switch, or 20 inches, looking at a computer screen, but you're in VR, you only need to look 4 feet out. And so there's way less demand on your focusing muscles in VR. So there's less strain that way. And so that's a little benefit for VR. Another benefit of playing VR is your eyes are constantly looking around, because you're in virtual reality, you're kind of looking around. And so you tend to blink a little bit more, because your eyes are a little bit more active. It's not necessarily staring at a screen, unless you're just like watching some movie in VR or something like that. And so in ways, I see VR as being a little bit better to use than maybe staring at your computer screen or staring at a Switch. There's like a less a type of demand. Now, definitely you still experience dry eye. I do when I'm playing VR, because your eyes are kind of isolated in this device, and you still tend to blink less than you normally would. So I still recommend using eye drops before you start playing VR, taking those breaks every 20 minutes. So those are all recommendations and tips that are still in place, but there's certain benefits, I think, that with playing VR that aren't there with playing the tablets and working on the computer screens.
That's interesting. I think that as a parent, if your kid is trying to decide whether to use VR versus sitting down, also, it might be nice knowing that your kid is actually standing up, moving around a lot. They even have VR treadmills that you can get on and really get a nice workout there. And I also wonder if, the device that you wear, the wearable device, might block some circulating air. I know there's dry eye is in all games, basically, because you're having that temptation to keep the eyes open to stay focused on the game. But I wonder if it blocks some circulating air if you have a fan on next to you, or central air or something like that. But I don't know. I'm starting to see a few more benefits, I think, to VR versus someone sitting down on a couch just working their thumbs to death
Yeah.
playing
So
some game.
yeah, and then now there are questions because virtual reality is still considered kind of like a new era, even though it's actually been around a while, but it's just like kind of like booming a little bit more. There's certain questions that are there, and certain definitely still studies that are happening. I mean, so they do some studies showing that maybe kids playing VR, maybe their coordination is a little bit different, so they kind of develop a little bit different. Some studies are showing that's not the case. There's some questions that people raise. Okay, with the screens really close, okay, so is that amount of light blasting into the eyes like bad for the eyes? But they did studies on that. They just showed that the light getting into your eyes is actually the same amount, whether you're, holding it a little bit farther away or if you're like in a normal lit room, so it's not like you're blasting with like a laser or, like a super bright flashlight in there. So people kind of get worried about that. But and the other thing is radiation. There's kind of like the talk like where if your phone has a little bit of radiation, so that radiation gets in there. So now this device is kind of the same thing as radiation, like blasting your eyes and everything. And they are studying that, I think, a little bit more. But still, there's questions that there aren't a lot of answers to. But it's definitely interesting and just kind of a developing field, I guess. Yeah, so there's really like some in some ways I see it, if my kid had a choice between, playing on the Switch and the VR, well, I'd rather him play outside. But if if that's the choice, then I'd let him play a VR for a little bit because he's there's less demand on the eyes. But I mean, as a parent, you still want to stick to those breaks. Don't let them play that very long. There is actually an age limit on the Meta Quest 2, like it's for 13 and older. And I actually have a video about that, as far as like VR and kids' eyes and everything like that. But but it's kind of new, so you just want to be careful because there are studies coming out or studies being done right now as far as how it might affect the eyes and the body and the brain. And I mean, we're still learning things as far as like how the phone and social media and scrolling and the use of our phone is affecting us. I mean, down to our eyes, our behavior, posture. So, I mean, we're just learning that. So I'm sure we'll kind of learn more as we go with VR. So
Thanks for sharing some of your knowledge about that. It sounds like for the viewer's sake, if anyone is specifically interested in this topic and has watched this video this long, you have somewhat of an interest in it. Maybe we need to go ahead and leave a link to the full playlist, Dr. Guymon's full playlist, in the description below for that. But Dr. Guymon, are there any other applications these days for VR outside of gaming that's working well for a lot of industries that you know of?
Yeah, and so this kind of brings up a good topic because we as eye doctors or the eye community is actually embracing VR to be actually used in certain diagnostic tools. So there are certain VR devices that we can actually use on patients that can test certain things like visual fields, blind spots in patients, like if we're screening for glaucoma or we're looking for macular degeneration, we're testing their visual thresholds. There are actually VR devices that you can bring into eye care practices and perform on patients. There are also VR devices and programs and applications right now that some doctors use for treating or performing vision therapy on some of their patients, specifically pediatric patients that have maybe poor eye teaming issues. Their eyes don't work together very well, or they have one eye that's kind of a lazy eye. So there are certain applications, VR games that actually try and help train the eyes and strengthen the eyes. And so VR is actually being used in eye care facilities to diagnose and help treat certain eye conditions. So it's kind of neat.
What's the difference between VR and augmented reality? Because we hear those terms kind of pop up out there as technology advances. What's the main difference there?
So virtual reality, everything is virtual. So it's kind of, if you have a VR device, everything is is put in front of you. Augmented reality is if you kind of have a see-through device where you're looking at the real world. So if you're looking at this room that we're in and you're wearing glasses, it will put maybe a TV screen in front of that wall that you're looking at, or you have some kind of fake dog running around the ground and piddles on the ground or something. I don't know if it would do that, but like if you it's like augmented reality. It's taking the reality that you're in and augmenting it. And so this is where certain contact lenses are coming into play. So there's contact lenses specifically for moto vision.
You have a video about that, right?
Yeah, that's being developed that can be used for AR, augmented reality, which is super exciting. Just kind of piques my interest in that area anyway. But and a lot of companies like Apple is developing augmented reality glasses where you can wear the glasses, see your text messages as you're walking down the street. You'll see there are certain glasses right now called Real augmented reality glasses where they can actually display text. So if you're like watching somebody talk or listening to someone talk, you'll actually be able to read what they're saying. So there's actually videos out there of people that are deaf. They'll wear these glasses and the person talking to them is just will display what they're saying, so they can just read what they're saying. It's just like in real time, and so it's kind of neat. The future's going to change. I mean, it's changing right now, but it's one of those things where it's going to be interesting what the future looks like in 10, 20, 30 years kind of thing.
So this was part 3 in our mini series called Eye Doctor's Secrets. If you liked what you saw, feel free to hit that like button for us. And also, if you have any questions, specific questions about this topic, ask us in the comments below. And by the way, we're going to leave Dr. Guymon's YouTube handle, Dr. Eye Guy's handle, in the description below. You can tag him, you can tag me in the questions, you can tag both of us at the same time and get answers from 2 doctors if you want to on this particular topic. Dr. Guymon is more the expert in the area of VR and how it affects our eyes, as you guys can see. Part 4 is going to be on Dr. Guymon's channel, and that's going to be about one of our favorite things that we do as eye doctors, especially eye doctors that use specialty contact lenses called scleral lenses to fix eyesight with individuals who have conditions like keratoconus or heavy scars on their cornea or post-corneal transplants, ways to help people see dramatically better. And also the applications of scleral contact lenses or custom contact lenses. Also in this next video, watch for some just funny stories that we're going to tell you, just some of our experiences in eye care. Watch for some of those. And we'll include a link for the full playlist for this mini series in the description below. And we'll see you in the next video.